I'm hanging there. I'm with you. Now. Go, 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 go. Too hard, Russell. Let's count 3 team out of the way. 6131.
Hello and welcome to In the Line of Fire. I'm Reed Yaden. This program highlights the work of the Jefferson County Fire Districts. Now this time we're at the Okolona Fire District for this program. You'll learn more about this department. That's coming up. Plus, Louisville's new mayor offers his views on fire protection. And we'll meet a volunteer who juggles a full-time career as an attorney and a lieutenant's position on the Harrods Creek Department. First on this program, an economic crisis for fire districts. This department, Okolona, is one of the largest suburban fire districts. It covers 33 square miles. Now, the district is a mix of residential and industrial, with large businesses like UPS, Jefferson Mall, and GE. Well, until recently, this department operated 4 stations, but funding concerns prompted the district to close one of its smaller stations. On the east side of the county, 2 fire districts have closed one of their stations for a day at a time. At Linden, there just isn't enough money to pay firefighters the overtime to always staff the second station. Right now, listen as the fire chiefs at Linden and Okolona talk candidly about the current dollar issues and their desire to improve the financial situation for fire districts. 2 fire chiefs talk candidly about their concerns for the financial health of their departments.
This day and time is kind of tough on fire districts, and trying to balance budgets and do all the things that you would like to do are very challenging things to do. And we're trying to run an outstanding fire department on an income that doesn't make it easy to do that.
We just don't have the money to pay overtime to maintain minimum staffing.
Over the past few months, Okolona has closed one of its fire stations, and the Linden district has had brownouts at one of its 2 stations, meaning the station was basically closed for 24 hours. For Okolona, closing its Station 4 came at a time when the district couldn't justify the operating cost when firefighters only staffed the station part-time. Okolona will move engines to respond to that part of its district. But Chief Carlson says the board's decision simply emphasizes a serious case of growing pains.
Okolona is moving towards being a mostly career fire department. And with Okolona being a career fire department and the tax structure being what it is, we had to look at ways of limiting our costs in other areas when we can. And one of the very difficult decisions the board made was to closing the Station 4, which was the old Edgewood Fire District.
That move toward career firefighters is great for the citizens, better coverage and more services. But here's the problem. Fire districts are primarily funded through a tax base that's over 60 years old.
The tax rate structure that we currently have is pretty much centered around most fire departments being volunteer departments. Okolona has kind of migrated towards a mostly career fire department, and there are a lot of expenses that go with that.
Our personnel costs have risen to where they're almost 90% of our revenue, and that's being driven by the increase in pension costs that the state mandates and also increases in health insurance coverage.
At the Linden District, Chief Rakestraw said the board had to cut overtime 50% last year to balance the budget. That means that Station Number 2 has closed periodically for 24 hours. The district sent a letter to residents explaining what was happening and the possible impact.
We'll see longer response times. That means either the company from Station 1 is making the call or possibly a Worthington company making the call. And if this station's out of service on another call, or Worthington Station 2 is out of service on another call, then the response times will be even longer. There are two options for increasing our revenue. One is to initiate ambulance service, which would provide us revenue from the transports, as well as it gives us an opportunity to increase our tax rate under the law. That is our preferred option. The other option is a change in the law that we operate under, KRS Chapter 75, to increase that tax cap.
Both chiefs want the public to understand that the fire district has evolved into really a business, not a volunteer organization, and that fire protection is ultimately a community issue.
Our volunteer numbers are diminishing. We've probably got 2 career firefighters to every 1 volunteer, and it seems to be headed that way. I don't know if it'll be extinct in my lifetime, but I think probably, in the next generation or 2, volunteer firefighters will be a thing of the past.
Realistically, this is a community's problem. It obviously impacts us. We have a cadre of very dedicated people that are very committed to serving the community, and when we're unable to do so at a level we're comfortable with due to factors that are out of our control, it causes a lot of stress with people, because we want to do a good job. But we recognize that this is really not the fire department's problem. This is the community's problem. And until the community comes together as a group and says we want our fire stations, not just Linden, there are other departments that are having similar problems, we want our fire stations adequately staffed. We want response times to our emergencies to be within reasonable limits. Until the community gets together and says that, there's realistically not going to be a whole lot of meaningful change.
Both Chief Carlson and Chief Rakestraw talked about that tax cap. Now, here's how it works. Fire districts receive a tax on assessed property. The limit is 10 cents for every $100 of assessed value. And there's a limit that was created by the legislature in 1944. Now, because of the funding concerns, fire districts more than ever are working together for a quick response. Currently, the average response time is 4 minutes and 52 seconds. McMahon Fire Chief Joe Johnson joins me now to talk about how dispatchers utilize a method called closest station response when selecting which fire department to respond to. Chief Johnson, tell me how this works exactly.
Well, Reed, how it works is that we have a CAD system, computer-aided dispatching system, and each fire district worked with the people that programmed the CAD to tell them what type of equipment to go to what type of runs. We use a GIS mapping system that maps each fire station in Metro Louisville, and from each single address in whatever district, it maps out 16 stations deep. So it knows to look at 16 different fire stations from the closest to the furthest. And that's how it tells them what equipment to pull. Based on a type of incident, event as we call it, determines what type of equipment. Such a structure fire would get 3 engines, which are pumper trucks, and 2 truck companies, which are ladder trucks.
How are the districts working together to make this quick response work?
Well, we've all signed on to the unit dispatch, and we utilize that mapping, that GIS mapping that tells us the closest companies. So if we're asking for 3 pumper trucks and 3 ladder trucks, it looks at all the stations down through there and picks the type of apparatus that we need.
Okay.
And if it's not available in, say, McMahon Station, then it looks at Jeffersontown.
Okay.
And then whatever it's not available at Jeffersontown, it may look at Linden or St. Matthews and down the line, however the closest station, next closest station is.
So this assures that you get exactly the equipment you need as quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible, because you're sending the closest unit based on the address location.
How has this cooperation helped in your district?
Well, in my district, I'm a very small district. I have minimal volunteers at this point. So in most cases, I'm guaranteed especially during the daytime, I'm guaranteed one apparatus, and that's my staffed apparatus, my career staffs. My volunteers, most of them work during the day, so I rely heavily on my neighbors for mutual aid, and so automatically I get the equipment I need to do the job that has to be done.
Now, the chiefs at Linden and Okolona talked about the financial struggles. What's the situation in your district?
Well, Reed, I think that any district in today's economy is going to have financial issues. You know, the tax cap was set in 1944 for rural departments. We are not rural by any stretch of the imagination in most cases. There are rural areas in some districts, but predominantly we're in urban settings, and we're not an all-volunteer department anymore. And
your hands are tied, though, by a law that was written in 1944.
Our hands are tied. You know, for a small district like myself, I'm able to cut. I don't have the personnel costs that some of the larger districts like Okolona and Linden have with multiple stations, bigger districts and that. So my personnel costs are minimal, and I'm able to shave the budget in areas that cut things like public education things or public relation type things like that in order to make a balanced budget. But, you know, at some point you run out of being able to cut things.
Right.
And then you start affecting the operations, which then affects the safety of our taxpayers.
Chief, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
While fire departments do a great job of quickly responding, often their efforts are in vain. Statistics show that false alarms account for 25% of all fire runs throughout Louisville and Jefferson County. Now the suburban and the city fire departments have joined together for a public education campaign aimed at promoting proper maintenance of an alarm system. Fern Creek Fire Chief Mike Schmidt joins me to talk about that campaign. First of all, Chief, just an explanation of how do you define a false run or a false alarm?
We define a false alarm as any time the alarm system is activated and there were no smoke or flames. A low battery, a dirty detector, improper access code, and construction dust are typical examples of a false alarm.
Now, recently, you, along with Mayor Jerry Abramson and Louisville Fire Chief Greg Frederick, held a news conference to talk about this education campaign. What's the message for people with an alarm system?
Well, the goal of our campaign is to educate people about false alarms and what causes them. We want them to know how to properly use their fire alarm system, how to keep it maintained, and better yet, to update it if possible.
With 25% of the runs being false, there has to be a big impact of those runs. What is it?
Well, the impact to the taxpayers is about $3 million a year. Those false alarms take critical resources that we have and tie them up and prevent them from responding to real emergencies, and it causes a delayed response to those emergencies. Additionally, 29 firefighters have been killed nationwide over the last 10 years while responding to false alarms.
29 in 10 years.
Right.
That's a bad statistic. Is there a penalty for a false alarm?
Currently, there's no fine or penalty in place. We're trying an educational approach to our problem first.
Yes.
However, in the future, there could be a fine structure put in place that is similar to the burglar alarm fine that the Louisville Metro Police Department uses.
Some unbelievable stats, Chief. We got to do better.
Well, we're hoping that this campaign will educate people and we'll get it under control.
Very good. Still to come on In the Line of Fire, Fire Prevention 101. Now that it's colder outside, stick around for some good advice on keeping your house safe and warm.
There's been a serious accident in Greenwich Village. 2 city fire trucks have collided. 12 firefighters have been injured, 5 are reported to be in serious condition and are hospitalized. Both trucks responded to a call that proved to be a false alarm. But looking at the injuries and all the damages, one firefighter told this reporter there's really no such thing as a false alarm. Your local fire department protects you. Take it seriously.